I'm sad to see that our country has fallen as far as it has. And given that we still have 3.5 years of Donald Trump, I am scared to see how much further we are going to fall. It's going to be weird to have a hype train while I cover this next part, but Senator Adam Schiff went onto the Senate floor and decided to lay out the top 10 ways Donald Trump is wrecking the country. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at those and see what he had to say.
But it has been consistent over
time. Oh, of course. We're going to have to do that thing where we increase the volume of things on Twitter, because Twitter is a real platform used by fake people.
Nothing short of extraordinary, which is why it is all the more heartbreaking to see so much damage, so much self-inflicted harm imposed on our country by this administration over the last 170 days. Indeed, if you were to design a presidency and policies to diminish our scientific and technological prowess from within, it would look a lot like this administration.
Okay.
If you were determined to kill our clean energy future and retreat from any hope of addressing climate change, it would look a lot like this. If you wanted to undermine our standing around the world, befriend dictatorships, and betray our fellow democracies, it would look a lot like this. If you wanted to deliberately tear at the social fabric and cohesion of our country, set state against state and people against people to the point of conflict in the streets, it would look a lot like this administration. The president and his cabinet have been tearing down so much of what makes this country special, and so quickly that it has been hard to see the big picture, hard to separate the biggest harms from merely the most sensational or the most proximate. 100 days was not enough time to evaluate the harms.
Okay, so this part's just preamble. I don't care about preamble. I want the actual top 10 list.
Research universities. Donald Trump is waging an all-out war on America's research universities. America's universities have been the envy of the world for much of the last century, powering scientific achievement and economic growth, dramatic breakthroughs in medicine, significant achievements in the arts, technological innovation, and all of the attendant economic benefits have been driven by a decades-old partnership between universities and the federal government. As a part of this grand bargain, the federal government invests in research conducted at top universities, and the country enjoys the benefits. From brilliant scientists in academia, the military gets new technologies and capabilities, including innovations in fusion energy, laser technology, electronic jamming capabilities, and so much more. Our healthcare is improved, and our lifespans are increased by university-led research into new medicines, medical implants, and devices. Food science helps us grow healthier crops and produce more food with less water and less pesticides. You would be hard-pressed to find a field of scientific endeavor in which university research has failed to deliver. Now all of that is on the chopping block. The administration has canceled tens of billions of dollars in university research funding. It is stopping some of the best and brightest students from coming to...
Okay, so Donald Trump cutting the funding for schools that not only educate people, but also directly provide America with its edge in scientific fields and technology research. Okay, fair. I don't have to listen to the rest of that to understand that. That's number 10. Donald Trump cut funding to a bunch of universities, and cutting that funding cut their ability to do research on shit that actively helps us. Shit that actively helps us produce vaccines. Shit that helps us produce better tech in our military, of which we are supposedly one of the best ones in the world, but we've got a really bad loss streak recently. I'm not really sure how to feel about that.
Taking away food from hungry kids in America. Donald Trump promised to make America healthy again, but he is not. Instead, he has settled for making America hungry again. The budget just realized through their big ugly bill makes a multi-$100 billion cut to the SNAP program. That's supplemental nutrition and food assistance.
Now, I want to go ahead and point out that it's not just kids who lose access to food because of SNAP. Obviously, parents do, but primarily what SNAP is and has been is not something for the benefit of American people who are consuming food. Primarily, it is a subsidy for farmers, because when people have the money to buy fresh produce, they buy that produce, and that allows farmers to sell that produce to larger grocery chains that have the ability to use SNAP, and that allows those farmers to maintain their livelihoods. Like in every aspect of the economy, when people do not have the money to spend, the areas of the economy that they were able to spend that money in previously begin to suffer. So if you use a vacuum cleaner and suck out a couple $100 billion from the food industry at the consumer level, you will end up hurting the producers. America currently does not have food scarcity in the classical sense. We produce, as of this moment, enough food to feed not only every United States citizen, but multiple other people around the world. What we lack is good distribution. That is why we have food deserts that get created by hackneyed suburban development projects, where the only access people have to food are the frozen processed things that can be brought in on a truck. Hamma, thank you very much for resubscribing. You remove SNAP. You starve many underprivileged families in those food deserts, and you gut the livelihoods of the farmers who even made the creation of those areas possible in the first place by being the first step in the large food distribution network that allowed us to expand American populations far outside of what would be considered normally healthy. The Big Beautiful Bill, as it is named, does gut a lot of shit. And fucking farmers is part of that. So, okay. Number 9 is screwing over our agriculture area. Let's take a look at the next one.
Our alliances with democratic nations around the world and aligning our country with dictators. Across administrations and decades, America has been a symbol of stability for the globe, a trusted partner, a champion of freedom and democracy. We have stood up to evil empires and championed the cause of liberty. And though we have made more than our share of mistakes in trying to rebuild other nations in our image, we have strived to achieve a foreign policy consistent with our values. Now, in just the first few months, so much of that legacy has been betrayed. So many of our alliances...
Okay, so it's the same thing that Trump did during his first administration. During his first administration, he buddied up to Putin. He buddied up to whoever the hell is running Turkey now. He buddied up to Kim Jong-un. These are the people that Trump buddied up to the most during his first presidency. And he started removing us further and further from our NATO alliance.
Have been degraded. So much of our standing in the world has been made small. So many of our friends have become estranged, our treaty partners unsure of whether they can count on us in a pinch. Donald Trump likes to talk about peace through strength. He likes to think that bullying our friends or extorting a price for our security guarantees is what makes us strong. But he is wrong. He trashes our relationships with our friends. He belittles the Canadians and the British who fought and died alongside American soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan. He denigrates Ukrainians and their brave president, who fight nobly in the defense of their democracy and their sovereignty. And he insists on Ukraine paying tribute in the form of mineral rights to secure his support. He flatters and fawns over the Kremlin dictator, at least he did, until even Trump could see that he was being made to play the fool by a mass murderer who did not want peace, only further mayhem. And who can say how long Trump's new resolve against Putin will last before it is overtaken by caprice or self-interest? The only true constant of Trump's foreign policy has been that the United States will be there for you if, and only if, it is pleasing to the president.
Yeah, that seems like what happens with most narcissists or Machiavellian types. Let's see here. Destroying our renewable energy future. This one makes sense. The bill did a lot of those cuts, too.
The administration is wrecking what is best about this country is their pointless, economically suicidal, and self-destructive attack on the development of renewable energy. Renewable energy can lead the world away from a climate catastrophe. It can be an economic slingshot catapulting us into an abundant energy future that is American-made. It can truly make us energy independent instead of simply more dependent on the fossil fuel industry. But Trump has attacked clean energy with a vengeance, repealing incentives passed during the Biden administration. And why? Because they were passed during the Biden administration, and because Donald Trump made a promise to oil companies in exchange for campaign cash. Lots of it. More than $1 billion of it. The big ugly bill phases out tax credits meant to spur development of solar and wind power and replaces them with tax credits for coal. If you were wondering whether you heard that right, you did. Tax credits for coal mining.
And I'm really glad I chose to pick up an electric vehicle when I did, because I don't know how long those cuts were actually going to be a thing that I could use to make those things even mildly more affordable. Jesus. Jessica says, remember when Kamala said, Trump will make friends with anyone who flatters him, and he nodded yes? Oy, oy, oy. All right, number 6.
Health and science. The administration is slashing the National Institutes of Health, the nation's premier medical research agency. They have cut NIH by almost half. Almost half. Now, I'm no scientist, but I took enough science classes in college to know my way around a lab. And I'm certainly no economist, but I can do basic math. And I can tell you with certainty, as anyone can who looks at this, that cutting NIH in half, massively gutting research grants and positions, will lead to the cancellation of clinical trials and new treatments, and to Americans needlessly suffering from any number of illnesses and disease.
So, combine this with the university research, which also leads the way in a lot of the development of vaccines, for instance. You just have a lot of dead bodies being made by Trump. That's fantastic. What's next?
To the federal workforce and federal agencies everywhere. Elon Musk and his lot of unqualified, unvetted, unrestrained tech bros have taken a chainsaw to any number of federal grants, federal contracts, federal departments, and federal jobs without the slightest understanding of the human consequences. Musk may have held himself harmless during these massive cuts. He managed to use his position in the administration to expand his billions in government contracts at Starlink. But everyone else was made to suffer. Now that he is gone, the wrecking crew continues its work. Doge accidentally cut nuclear safety staff, then had to rush and try to rehire them. They cut specialists in bird flu, and then they had to try to rush and rehire them. Remember those coal tax credits I mentioned earlier? Well, they're cutting mine safety efforts, making dangerous work even more so.
The children yearn for the mines. They also yearn for the creepers to blow up the mines under them.
They doged USAID and diminished our soft power around the world. They are dismantling the Department of Education and selling off our children's education piece by piece. And they would cut NASA in half. There is no more.
Of course, Musk would want NASA cut in half because he has SpaceX. And the less NASA there is, the more reliant people are on SpaceX for anything involving space. It's the usual song and dance of getting rid of government programs that our taxes fund, that we all get to benefit from, and replacing them with private firms that can enrich themselves by creating things we need. As an example of something in space that we may end up needing, right? There's a meteor or comet or whatever the hell it is. Is outside of my field of expertise that has a lot of precious minerals on it. And we are supposedly going to try to find a way to mine many of those resources out and then bring them back here. A lot of those resources seem to be things like gold and copper and just generally really useful shit that can be really expensive when we need a lot of them for, say, computer manufacturing or electronics manufacturing. Now, imagine for a minute that you're Elon Musk. And Elon Musk sees that something that can directly contribute to the amount of resources he has to build shit is out there. And with his ego, the first thing he's going to want to do is be the one who sends shit out there to mine it and get it and bring it back and be the hero that brought a fuck ton of gold back to the United States, basically, right? It's much less grandiose when it's just NASA doing it, because we expect NASA to do it, and he wants himself to be the one who does it. Not only because the story around it enriches his narcissistic personality, but also, and importantly, because having those resources be something he controls means he can be the one in charge of distribution, as opposed to this being something that we can all benefit from. Again, narcissist. He wants to be the one who has first dibs and first access to any resources out there. As the resources dwindle on the planet, he wants to have first dibs on everything outside of it, if he can. And the more you gut NASA, the more difficult it is for NASA to do manned and unmanned missions off-planet. What do we have next?
Off again, on again, off again, on again, off again, on again. Tariffs. The ill-considered, ill-executed, unpredictable, unproductive, costly, indiscriminate, and self-destructive tariffs. For a president who ran on lowering costs, his most significant economic action has been a colossal backfire. Prices for your 4th of July barbecue last week were the highest they've ever been. Like the costs of burgers or beer. Phones are now more expensive. Cars are more expensive. Prices at Walmart, Target, Costco, up, up, up. And on Amazon, they were going to add a specific line item for the cost of the Trump tariffs, besides each affected product, until the Trump administration begged its owner, Jeff Bezos, not to be so transparent with their own customers because it made the president look bad. This didn't stop Amazon from adding the Trump tax to the price of the goods you buy on Amazon. It's just stopped Amazon from showing you just how much more you are paying.
The fun fact, Saki and I have some subscriptions to video streaming services, your Netflixes, your Disney Pluses, your shit like that. And for Disney, we have the one that contains ads. Because the only things we really watch on Disney are the odd Disney movie, Family Guy, and Star Wars. We don't get the bulk of our entertainment from it. So we get the ads one because it costs less money. And there is an advertisement that keeps on playing on it so often. And it's just advertisements for car companies selling vehicles going, now, come here now and get special tariff busting prices. And Jesus Christ, do you know how hard I cringed when I heard the words tariff busting prices? Oh my God, I wanted to scream, because that only happens in a world like the one that we fucking created with our votes. It hurts. Dorito says, I'll be honest, the guy is saying important shit, but it is so boring. I wish we had better messengers in Congress. Yeah, you're right. I agree 100%. I wish he was more entertaining. Why do you think I'm stopping halfway through each of these? So when I play D&D, I get a migraine. Because when I play D&D, I'm not fully engaged. And the more people who are playing in my D&D group, the less engaged I am, because there's more people figuring out their shit, taking turns, role-playing, and because there's only one DM, you can only have one person role-playing at a time. And as interesting as it is to watch somebody stumble through a conversation dialogue with the DM, after they've gotten about 15 lines in and they're about to talk about their next big score because for some reason their thief likes bragging about every fucking thing they're doing, which makes them a really awful thief, Jason! I get a migraine because I am not engaged. I have gone so far as to just play games on my phone during other people's turns in D&D. And I've had people get upset at me for that, and I'm just like, look, I can't, okay? I want to play with you all, but I've got to make accommodations for myself so that I can actually function during this. I am getting the same migraine listening to Adam. And I hate that because I want to care about the things he's saying because the content of what he's saying is important. The execution, on the other hand, Dorito Dave says, I'll be honest, the guy is so boring. Wish we had better messengers in Congress. We needed Jewish space lasers on the left. You didn't read the rest of my message. I'm sorry, I got bored halfway through your message. Your message was giving me a migraine. So I just went on my own tangent. So, like, I could listen to the entirety of what Adam is saying with no problem if I were playing a video game and he was my second screen, if he was my background music. And I think that's kind of one of the problems is that, like, right-wing politicians tend to be a little more bombastic, verbose, problematic, and a lot of, like, establishment Dems just aren't that, and it makes them a little more boring to watch. Like, I am actively getting a migraine listening to him. But we will continue. We will continue. Because I don't mean that as a slight to Adam. I just need a different form of entertainment while this is going on. Like, if I were playing a game, I'd be fine. I'd be perfectly fine.
When the Senate passed Trump's big ugly bill last week, 50 of our colleagues put their stamp on a budget that will devastate Medicaid. That will mean hospitals and clinics close. That millions of Americans will lose access to life-saving care. That will mean people get their care denied. That will mean the long, hard fight against opioids will be set back by cuts to substance abuse treatment. After promising that Medicaid would not be touched, that our health care would not be harmed, they cut it by $1 trillion. Trillion with a T, to fund tax cuts for wealthy people by the trillions. And when your hospital closes, because it loses millions of Medicaid dollars, it won't matter whether you were personally on Medicaid. Your hospital will be gone. You and everyone else will have to drive farther to find an emergency room, to have a baby, to get dialysis, or to be treated for a stroke. The quality of your care will decline. Your access to care will diminish, especially reproductive care, but every kind of care. Most of us will pay more, a lot more, for the care we receive. But some will go without care altogether.
You know, this reminds me of an argument I had on July 4th. A friend of the family had come over, and we were all sitting in the pool, and health insurance was brought up as a conversation topic. And my mom works in the health insurance industry, and I've got a lot of opinions on it. Quite a few, really. And the opinion was stated by the older gentleman who was visiting the family. Health insurance, health coverage, all of it got way worse when the government got involved. And I listened for a little bit. My mom nodded her head at him. Nothing of substance was added. And so I fucking snapped. And I said, that's a real interesting opinion to have with a couple of people here who, if they did not have health insurance through the federal government, because Saki and I are, we have our insurance through the ACA, that's a real interesting opinion to have right next to a couple of people who would be fucked if not for the government's involvement in healthcare. And the statement, healthcare got worse when the government got involved, is stupid on every fucking level because the government was funding the research at universities for the healthcare in the first fucking place. The government was involved from the beginning. The government was involved before he was in his dad's fucking testicles. But it's an opinion that I had to hear. And then his challenge to me was, well, I had my kids until about 13 years old didn't have health insurance. We were fine. And I just asked like 3 separate times, what does that mean? What does that mean? And my mom tried to defend him, saying, oh, well, he's just saying it to say it. And I'm just like, people don't do that. People don't say things just to say things. They say things for a purpose. And he tried to use it to say, well, we didn't have health insurance and we weren't fucked, so if you don't have health insurance, you wouldn't be fucked. Let's ignore the fact that earlier today, we spent 4 hours at Saki's colonoscopy appointment because we're trying to figure out why she, bleeds. We would actually be fucked if not for health insurance that was subsidized by the federal government, because neither of us make enough money to just pay for health insurance outright. He does pay for his health insurance outright, so he's in the privileged position of having enough fucking money to pay for his health insurance outright. Anyway, my pissy dealings with family and extended family and family friends aside, eventually that conversation moved into other areas, and I was basically just sitting there waiting for the nanosecond that it moved back. Because I'm sorry, but there are certain things that if you say them around me, I am just gonna snap your goddamn head off. If you don't qualify them with something that defuses me, that is one of those things. Axo says, not gonna lie, sirs, the colonoscopy thing felt like a don't share on the internet thing, but you're still right. Hi, everybody on the internet. Did you know that adults after the age of 30 have things happen in their body that are awful sometimes, and they have to go get surgeries and checkups and all kinds of things for them. Did you know that we have gross fluids inside our body? Now you do. Anyway, let's continue.
The watchdogs are gone. Trump's undermining of the rule of law. The assault of the rule of law began almost immediately with the pardon of 1,550 people who committed one of the most serious offenses in the nation's history, attacking the U.S. Capitol to stop the peaceful transfer of power. In granting pardons to hundreds of offenders who used violence that day against police officers, Donald Trump sent a powerful message to his followers that they may use violence on his behalf and he would have their back, that he would insulate them from the law and from accountability. And more than that, that he would promote them, advocate for them, appoint them to high positions in a new Justice Department, a department oriented not towards justice, not devoted to a rule of law, but devoted only to him. In Trump's Justice Department, we are no longer a nation of laws, but a nation of men to be rewarded or punished according to the president's whims. A mayor of New York charged with corruption has his case dismissed, not because of any prosecutorial misconduct or lack of evidence, but because he is useful to the president on an unrelated policy matter. In Trump's Justice Department, the absence of evidence or lawful predication is no bar to initiating a criminal investigation, when a political pretext will do. He is using the department as both sword and shield, a sword to pursue his enemies and a shield to protect his friends, and to protect no one more than himself.
Yeah, no, that's just gross. It's just gross. And the Supreme Court has given Trump even more power to ignore court orders now, which is a weird thing to do in a world where Trump ignoring court orders was supposed to be a bad thing. But let's see what his number one is, because, you know, I would assume number one was breathing. But,
one way in which Donald Trump and his administration are wrecking this country, and that is by destroying the very idea of America. Our nation was formed as an improbable experiment, an experiment based on the unproven idea that people possessed sufficient virtue to be self-governing, that we did not need to be ruled by a tyrant. From that humble and daring beginning, the idea grew that a country so constituted, so organized, could not only rule itself, but could attract the best and the brightest, the most industrious of souls from all over the earth and make them Americans. That there would be no caste system in America, that here anyone with the drive, the talent, and the intellect could prosper. That there were no limits to what we could achieve. That idea that became America was our most powerful appeal, our calling card at home and around the world. It has driven people to our shores. It has inspired people in dark prison cells in Iran, in labor camps in China, in gulags in Russia, and in impoverished places everywhere to dream of America, what it stands for, and what it might mean to them if only they were so lucky, so very lucky, to one day move to this great place called America.
You know what's weird listening to this? I grew up really liking the movie An American Tail. How is that movie gonna be distributed if we fall? Like, I know that's the most minor of things to focus on, but that movie was a big part of my childhood. And just having to explain to somebody later on, hey, they're talking about a nation that doesn't exist anymore. That's just a weird concept to me. Justin says bootlegs. Oh, no. No, it's not. I'm not worried about, like, physical distribution. That entire industry has died. No, I'm talking about the fact that the idea behind that movie stops functioning. Stopped functioning a long time ago, really, but really stops functioning the minute that the techno-fascists, the techno-feudalists, rather, actually get what they want for America. The entire idea of America just falling into a swamp. I'm not saying that America's actually gonna fall. I'm fairly confident that we're gonna keep on trekking on. I'm just not super happy about the morphology of how we're doing that right now. Honestly, I don't find fault with any of these 10 things. The last one feels very, and I needed to come up with something epic for the final thing, but as a content creator who would do the same thing, you know what? I get it. And while the delivery may be a little dry, it is somebody speaking for length in Congress. I'm going to be honest. I can't truly find fault with any of these 10 things. They are all things that Trump has done, directly or indirectly, that have negatively affected America, its ideas, its concepts, its fundamental principles, and, well, my ideal version of it. I'm sad to see that our country has fallen as far as it has. And given that we still have 3.5 years of Donald Trump, I am scared to see how much further we are going to fall. Especially since I am watching it from within. But, who knows? Maybe something good will come at the end of all of this. After all, the night is always darkest right before the dawn, or at least that's what I am usually told. We will recover from this, I will say that. If I were to give you all a little bit of hopium, a fire like this cannot last forever. It either gets put out by others, or, more likely, eats and consumes everything around it until it has nothing left, and then it dies out. Either way, the fire that is the Trump regime will, at some point, die. Whether it is by the hands of people who undermine it and instrument its ending, or by the mere passage of time. One way or another, this will pass. The best thing we can be doing right now, if you are not getting directly politically involved, which you should be, ideally, you should be using 5 calls to talk to your representatives, you should be using resist bot to send shit en masse, you should be going on to either 50501 or Mobilize or the big list of protests so that you can get involved in your local political community and start getting involved in getting politicians who actually represent you elected at all levels of government. You can go to the bottom of my video and you can find links to the DSA, where you will find DSA branches all across the United States that you'll be able to join so that you can have an active part in getting people in Congress who will be able to stop shit like this from coming down and trickling down onto all of us. But the most important thing, more than any of that you could be doing right now is taking care of yourself. If you're in America right now, it can really feel like the walls are closing in and things are getting worse and doom and gloom is here, and it can be addicting to consume content that tells you that doom and gloom is all there is to see and everything is fucked and everything is wrong and you need to stop. Even if that means not watching my content anymore, your health is infinitely and far more important than whatever pennies that I would have gained from this, or dollars if enough of you unsubscribe and leave. The most important thing you can be doing right now is taking care of your health. Go outside, hang out with some friends, go to the gym, Hell, if you're near a theme park, go to a theme park. Right now, Six Flags is doing a membership thing for $7 a month. Most people can afford $7 a month. And that's going out and getting on rides and having a good time and raising your spirits. It's food for the soul. There's also all kinds of other things you could be doing. Go to your local card shop. Play Magic the Gathering with your friends. Play D&D with your friends. Whatever card games you enjoy. Bring a freaking TV into your card shop. See if you can hook it up to the sidewall. And just do some rounds of Smash Brothers with random-ass people. Go outside, make friends. Hell, go to a bar and find a drinking buddy, as long as you don't, fall into alcoholism. Go do things that make you happy. Go do things that have a higher chance of making you happy. But do it outside. Do it outside of the four walls of your own home. And for God's sake, do it away from your cell phone. You can have the thing in your pocket if you want, but I'm going to be honest. There is no better device for fucking with your mental health than your own cell phone. Because that is a direct portal into more doom and gloom. Break the habit of doom scrolling. Break the habit of just consuming content that increases your anxiety and increases your fears. Go outside and spend some time with your friends. Be engaged in political action as you can. Please. I'm actively involved right now in the campaign for Clarence Blaylock to try to oust Marjorie Taylor Greene from her seat in my District 14 of Georgia. I am actively doing what I can from my end of the political aisle. But I pray that while y'all do the same, you also take time for yourself. For me, Saturdays are card shop days. Late Fridays are card shop days. Sundays are date days with Saki, and she gets to pick whatever we do, and I get to pick whatever we do, and nobody else gets to pick. The beginning of my days is making content for my Magic the Gathering channel. If it is a work day, Monday through Thursday, the middle of my day is my time at the gym, or Saki and I going somewhere else to exercise. Lately, it's been going to Whitewater. We have a membership, it doesn't cost a whole lot, and it lets us swim for as long as we damn well please. And then I come home, and I get on here, and then I talk about politics. But I do what I can to distance myself from it for as long as I possibly can, until it is time to get on here and talk with all of you. I would hope that many of you develop similar habits so that you don't spiral, because you will be functional to no political movement if you are spiraling. You're also worth more than that. So please, look after yourself. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really could not do any of this without all of you. Those of you watching, and especially those of you who support me on Patreon. I wanted to go ahead and take a minute to thank all of you who do that, because with YouTube being what it is these days, I really cannot do this full time without the support from each and every one of you. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravalern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Tales of Atonement, Nixie Chan, Kiri Artemis, Limor Pinku, Love Bunny Games, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Aurora, Leela Ururaka, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fireshard. Thank you so very much. But since you're here, why not go ahead and try watching another one? There should be one that's on the screen right now. And if you are a patron of mine, I wanted to go ahead and thank you again for all of your support. There is still a video you could press, though, if you'd like. I would appreciate it just a little bit.